In a grand final where Magix ends the series with a 0.82 HLTV rating, he was actually the second best player, nearly the best player in the series on gun rounds, on full buy versus full buy rounds, the hardest rounds in the game. And generally you say they're the most important, although I think this series showed that the other rounds do matter at least a decent amount. But the only player better than him was Zywoo, because Magix was 32-19 on full buy versus full buy rounds, where riflers usually lose a bit of their stats and oppers tend to do quite well. Rob's was only something like 24-19 or something like that. Like, he actually wasn't particularly close, despite the fact that Magix isn't necessarily, even in general, in the best positions to get frags, but especially when you're getting blown out every single map, was not in the best position to be getting a lot of frags. But not only that, this is a map, I've never seen this before, where Magix actually doesn't get a kill on any round other than full buy versus full buy rounds. As in, he goes 18-7 on full buy versus full buy rounds and ends the game 18-14. So pistol round, anti-eco, eco, force, none of those rounds he doesn't get a single kill. And some of the rounds he does have a chance to get a kill. Some of the rounds he gets a little bit unlucky, like this one where he gets kind of split off when they're trying to go for this palace play. And there's a couple of rounds where, admittedly, I mean, you want to ask the question, is Magix just not put in positions to get kills on these other rounds? Is he super passive on anti-ecos? I don't know the answer to all of these questions. A lot of the time on ecos, what Spirit were doing on T side was that they would lose pistol. They lost every single one of them, naturally. They would lose pistol, and then they would go for this eco where they would have everyone on Glocks except for somebody would drop a deagle to donk. I think so. Basically, whoever got a kill or two on pistol round probably would drop a deagle to donk, which is just an honestly insane. And donk, he kept getting kills with the deagle. Like, what can you even say? But I mean, you're not really expected to get much done with a Glock. You got to accept that. However, into the actual gun rounds, Magix generally is going for this underpass play in the majority of the rounds of this game. Some rounds he's sent out, you saw it in the previous round. Some rounds he's sent out first or second out for the A hit, and he's kind of an entry, which is why his stats, he's been doing really well on gun rounds in a few games recently. His stats are kind of insane, and you can somewhat understand why he hit Destroyed Wonderful a couple of times against Na'Vi, because he's hitting some pretty crazy shots. But that one, not exactly a crazy shot. I was just not aware someone could be top stairs. I think he might have been expecting that Flames could cover that, but I'm not sure where Flamesy actually was playing. But either way, Magix gets one and then closes it out on Flamesy to finish off the round. And then the following round, absolutely nothing happens. He literally goes underpass, gets naded for 80 damage, like right off the bat. His whole team goes out A. He doesn't see anybody, and the whole team's dead before the round can even happen. That's gonna happen once in a while. It's gonna, it's once in a while that things are gonna go like that. But in general, and he even has like an ace clutch at some point, which is, I don't know. Magix, I even said on the Blast Bounty when I was on the broadcast, he had a bad game, and I was like, Magix fans, welcome home. The major final wasn't his normal level. I don't know, he's popping off, man. He's popping off. He's actually pulling some, I don't know how long he's going to be able to continue it, but maybe whatever fucking absolute insane special formula energy drink that Donk is drinking, maybe Magic's got a sip of that shit, because he's dumpstering people. It's insane. You know who isn't dumpstering people though? Zont. But anyways, he throws support utility towards mid. He's got a player going underpass ahead of him actually already. Chopper made his way through. Magix makes his way over right afterwards. Team's not, I mean, you're not really set up to do all that well. By the way, this is just going to be a ridiculously quick flag. You're not really set up to do all that well when your team is just dying near the beginning of all of these rounds and you're trying to rotate in, especially if they have an idea of the way you like to play and how you might be lurking. Robs knows Magix might be coming through. He moves his crosshair off slightly, but that is still a ridiculously fast shot by Magix to take him down. And then you just end up in a 2v3, but it's actually winnable specifically because of that kill. Now, you have a lot of control for vitality of a lot of the map, which means generally what's going to happen, you're going to jump out B, your first player is going to die, maybe you get a trade. If Magix had 100 health, then you'd expect the trade to most likely happen. But because Shiro can find that initial entry on Apex, and then Magix hits a ridiculous instant headshot on a Mezzi, there's actually time for Magix to control the site and find that kill on a Zaiwu. Because usually what ends up happening in a situation like that, first kill gets traded, the second player moves his way into market, and he kind of tracks you throughout the bomb site, so you don't have a real place you can play in an afterplant to catch someone off guard like that. But Zaiwu was nowhere nearby to actually have any information where Magix was, and that's well played 1v1, but from Zaiwu's perspective, that's just not a 1v1. You're going to be winning that much of the time, even with Magix having only 26 health or whatever he had. But despite all of that, despite a 3K with some insane shots, he ends up dropping his AK to Donk and ends up with the Galil. This is what I'm talking about. He's not exactly given all the priority in the world. Of course, understandably so, if you've got Donk on your team, you're probably thinking, yeah, Magix, get that goddamn AK out of your hands, give it to Donk right now. You're taking this fucking Galil. But at the same time, it must suck to like pull off an ace or something like that and then just immediately be like, yep, here's the 8K, go ahead and take it. But looking at the scoreboard here at the bottom, you can tell so nothing really happens for a few rounds here until round 15, where he finally gets a kill. You can actually just track when he gets kills. That's when the gun rounds actually are. He gets one in the majority of them. But he's actually one of the main B players on the CT side. Shiro's going to rotate in, so Magix can actually support on short. I like the way they play this with this double swing off of short, sometimes Zontix and Magix together. That actually opens up a lot of opportunity, because sometimes Zontix can kind of be isolated in those situations and teams can take him down. Instead, they go for the double peek, and then they immediately rotate back to B, and they just completely shut down this B play, initially at least, and turn it into a 2v1 somehow. This is what I mean. This is what I mean. They had 3 players on B, got the first kill, and somehow the round ends up being a loss. And Magix goes 1 for 1. I don't think he really necessarily did anything wrong. The player that jumps onto the ledge window is probably supposed to get traded, but I haven't spent a whole bunch of my life thinking about that, because what I'm thinking about really is the very following gun round, where he's going to have an AK, and this is where the comeback kind of starts for Spirit here. They've got a full buy, they're down 11-5. Did Magix miss the nade, or did his teammate? Someone missed the nade there. But you have the A exec coming out of Vitality, Chopper in towards CT's, kind of a little bit off guard, but you've got a 2v4 now. You're not supposed to be winning this, no matter the buy, but Magix is just going to pull off a couple kind of ridiculous shots and win this for his team. So he picks up the first one with a nice shot. Stuck stairs. Apex really has to be getting that kill, honestly, and that's not even that crazy of a shot from Magix. That's just Apex he just needs to get that kill, honestly. Magix somehow doesn't get caught by Zaiwu there. Turns into a 1v2. Flamesy kind of gives the kill away there a little bit, but then Zaiwu is low HP. Magix is also low HP, so Zaiwu's got his pistol out. I'm going to admit, some of those kills felt kind of gifted a little bit. That kill from Apex has to be getting that kill. Flamesy kind of just peeks into the angle with 20 health himself. You can't really let that happen. And Zaiwu, it has the timer, I think. I think the time's getting low and the bomb's not planted, so he's forced to go aggressive there with 8 HP himself. Most of those shots didn't really take a lot of effort, which is credit to Magix, because I think Magix actually is a little bit underrated, especially on the CT side. I think he makes a lot of really good decisions and generally plays kind of by the numbers CS to put himself in the best positions possible. But I saw he had a rifle, so I was watching this round, but his opponents have Glocks, which means he definitely doesn't kill absolutely anybody. But this round, he probably will kill somebody. One of the things that's actually really important when you look at Spirit, Magix is actually a really good B site defender, because this is what a lot of teams are doing. If we look at it, they've got 3 players in middle, 1 A. Magix is completely alone on B. And when I see Astralis do this with Cadian, I go, that's risky. And I see Magix do this, and I say, that's risky. But Magix has a pretty good track record, actually, of defending the B site. What you're trying to do here, delay for time, allow for a rotate to get there, and pick up 2 kills. That's really, I think, your best job is to delay for time like that, and if you can get 2 kills, I think you've absolutely done your job and more. And not only that, but he just about found a third. He was about like 1 bullet off from finding a 3rd kill onto the player that actually traded on him. His team still almost loses the round. I mean, your goal in that situation is take it back. You don't want to delay and get 2 kills. You want them to go mid and die. But if they're going to go B, delay for a little bit, that smoke gets dropped down, you get a couple of kills, that's your job, really. And they're like, well, we caught one guy B. In Vitality, in your head, if you're Apex, you're like, the strat was right. There was only one guy B, we caught him, he got 2 kills, almost 3 kills, but the strat was like, theoretically, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for that solo B player, you're trying to take him down, and it just, you know, it just didn't work out. And that's the reality. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. So I noticed again, he had an M4, so I watched the round, and then I realized they're on pistols, so why am I watching the round? And statistically, actually, when you look at Magic's with rifles, his rating on full buy rounds with like AK, M4A1S, I think is actually kind of insane. I think his rating with an AK is like 1.3 or something. It's actually pretty crazy. But regardless, he's in towards B apartments. Nobody goes B. They're just kind of all up in middle. Magic's, this is the problem with B. If you hold B effectively, one of the things is, but if you hold B effectively, this is why I tell you, if you, in pugs, you shouldn't hold B. They're just going to go the other way, right? They're just going to go to the other bomb site. So here's a 2v2, rotating over, reasonably, I mean, it's a nice shot onto Rops. Not the easiest from Rops, because Rops only has 8 HP, kind of has to hit Magic's in the head immediately. The 1v1 he's going to get into is also, someone told me that Cold Zera once said that in 1v1s, if you do nothing, your opponent will just make the mistake into you. And I keep seeing that actually play out perfectly to fruition in a lot of games recently, where it's just, you're expecting the player to either run up to him in that 1v1, or you're expecting the player to try and fake the bomb. Magic's kind of just sits there, and eventually ZywOo's like, well, I've got to peek now and try and catch him because I've got low HP, you know, I'm stuck in a corner, I don't want to let this happen. The reality is that Magic's, I mean, if ZywOo just stayed in that corner, Magic's wouldn't have had time to get that defuse. Instead, he peeks out because that's the natural thing to do, and that's when he gets killed. But one of the reasons playing B sucks, you have to rotate into A in situations like this. You're literally just 3v5, no hope of winning the round really, but you kind of need to probe a little bit. Maybe you have a chance if you can get a kill. I mean, at this point, I feel like they should just be saving, actually. 3v5, no utility. It's actually insane that they even go for this at all, but somehow it almost becomes a winnable round. The problem is, the reason I don't think going for this made any sense to begin with is that Shiro wasn't even in window. So it's like, okay, you can kill people on that side of the site, but Shiro's still not in window. But the idea, I think, is that if they get a couple of kills and the player's in sight, someone might peek to try and clear out so they don't have to focus on murder. And once they do that, Shiro could get a kill and you could maybe convert the round. But the problem is that if you lose that, which you're almost always going to lose that unless they just int into you, which you should think that a team like Vitality probably isn't going to do that often, then you end up in a situation like this. Even with a couple rifles saved, when you look at that, Magic's drops his M4 to Zontix, which, to be fair, makes sense. You play B apartments, you can play it with an MP9, but at the same time, I mean, Magic's, statistically, he's tied for top fragging. But when it comes to gun rounds, my God, he's just dominating. But the problem is now, with an MP9, it's not a gun round anymore. So he's not going to get any kills here. Actually, the problem is that he just gets caught by a really nice play by Apex. And I don't know if this is just that Magic's plays this angle too often in situations like this, where it's like a force buy kind of situation where they have MP9s and stuff. But Apex just does a really nice movement play, gets around the site, hits a really nice shot on Magic's. And that is one where, to be honest, I mean, if Magic's gets a kill or two there, they have a chance of winning this round. That being said, he's getting collapsed on from short and B apartments. He would have to pull off some kind of heroics to win that round. But at the same time, he could have got one, maybe. The point being here, I don't even know how this shit is possible, but Magic's is just dumpstering people on gun rounds. And statistically, that is an absolute anomaly. I've never seen a series like the one that we just saw here. 0.82 rating, but he's actually, on gun rounds alone, he's got like a 1.3 or something if you combine it all. He's like 1.9, 1.7, and 0.7 or something. I don't know what that would add up to specifically, but it's insane. It's insane. It's honestly crazy. Magic's should be celebrated.